Since becoming full-time travelers in November 2022 through November 2025, we'll have flown on 75 different flights on 34 airlines. Navigating flight transportation can be really tricky, and it can be overwhelming to know how to get the best deals. We've developed effective strategies that work well for us, and today we're taking a deep dive into those tried and true methods to help you with flexibility in your travels and also to avoid hidden costs. I'm Judy.
And I'm Kevin. Welcome back to Finding Gina Marie, where we share our lives as full-time travelers and the connections we make along the way. Let's start by talking about our travel philosophy. Some people are interested in playing the long game when it comes to travel. They sign up for various newsletters on websites that give them information and alerts when certain prices come through or some great deals for different countries or travel options.
That method works great if you're willing to wait to visit a particular place when you finally land on the perfect deal. But that's not really the way we travel.
For the most part, we're planning our travel a year in advance. We're booking way ahead, and we can't afford to wait for a particular destination to appear on a discount list. We need to book the destinations that we want to go to at certain times of year.
Even before we were full-time travelers, the planning and the preparations and the anticipation were half the fun of getting to the place we were going.
Although we love getting discounts on flights, it's not always easy for us because we're only traveling to the US once a year, and that's where a lot of those discount flights are coming from.
That means a lot of discount sites like Going, formerly Scott's Cheap Flights, or Daily Drop, or Hopper don't even work for us because we don't have a hub or series of hubs inside the US.
While there may be a rare deal or two that would work for us, it's not worth the membership cost, and we've heard a lot of people are disappointed with the results they've gotten from these sites.
But let us know in the comments if you subscribe to one of those discount sites and whether you've traveled between two international destinations and it's actually been worthwhile for you to pay the membership fee.
We typically book economy seats for our travel, and while there are hacks that get you really good discounts on business class seats, they're still expensive seats, and we'd rather use that money for when we get to a destination and enjoy our time there.
We really like going on excursions, and saving money on our flights allows us to do more of those.
Now, we have bumped up to premium economy, and that was our trip to Japan, but that was because we spent points on getting that flight originally, so the extra money didn't seem like a lot of cash to us.
And while you might be able to get a little more rest by flying business class, we aren't business travelers, so we don't need to hit the ground running when we first arrive in a destination. In fact, we give ourselves a couple of extra days before we book excursions so that we can get some rest, and it also allows us to have some flexibility just in case there are delays with our flights or cancellations or anything like that. We stay enough time in our destinations to have that flexibility.
And most of the time, we're trying to get to a destination as soon as possible. So getting the deals might require you to take a hop somewhere else. There's a business class deal if you get to this airport, so you can get to this airport. And frankly, our scheduling process is busy enough without having extra. Plus, the more hops you have, the more additional fees you may be paying for seats. And we try to avoid those at all costs. A lot of discount deals require you to travel round trip. Now, that's just not the way we book things. We're going from country to country to country, and unless we're taking like a 2 or 3 day detour to visit another city that's nearby, we rarely do round trip tickets.
But if you are doing a round trip, it is important that you book it that way. We made the mistake when we went to Iguazu Falls in Argentina that we booked 2 one-way tickets. We did that because we weren't really sure what our itinerary was going to look like. But it turned out that one of our flights was canceled, and because it was 2 one-way tickets, it kind of left us in the lurch with that second leg because technically that return leg wasn't impacted by the strike.
We're still hoping that Chase Sapphire Reserve will refund our money for that missed return flight.
One thing that's really been a game changer for us is to have a shared email address that we use exclusively for our bookings. Now, we split up our tasks, and I normally take care of booking accommodations. Kevin usually takes care of booking transportation. And that would mean previously that we would each only have half of our information. So by having an email address that all of our bookings go to, and we don't have a lot of spam that goes in there, it means that we each have full information.
In addition to having this shared email address that we can both see, we also have shared folders on iCloud so that we have a travel folder that stores everything. Tickets, booking information, anything related to travel, we shove in there. So if we're at the airport and they say, hey, we need to see the tickets for your next destination, your flight out of this country, we can go to our travel folder, or our shared email address and see those documents.
We build a lot of redundancies into our travel planning so that we don't miss a flight or forget that we've booked something. We have a travel planner that we use to keep track of all of the details, and it's just a spreadsheet, but we use it for everything. It is our Bible. And we also have a shared calendar so that we never miss a detail.
Because we're booking full-time travel a year in advance, we have a lot of things that we have to put on our schedule. That means first thing we have to do is a big picture schedule, and then we have other stages to refine that. The big picture means going to Kayak, looking at the various dates that we can get flights, checking it in a broad range, like they add the +3 days option, so you know within a range of 6 days when the best prices are. And then we'll look at what accommodations are for those dates, and Judy will figure out, oh, yeah, there's some really good accommodations during this date period. How are the flights for those? The flights look like they'll work out. We got those dates. And then she'll go ahead and book those accommodations.
Without booking flights yet, we know that typically when we're booking accommodations, we have a lot more flexibility to cancel them if our plans change. But once you lock in a flight, you're committed to that destination, which we're not always ready to do. At the same time, we are looking at our accommodation choices.
And we know we can book refundable flights and pay for the privilege of being able to change our plans. But we're not going to pay that premium price just to change our plans around. We'd rather delay the purchase of flights and deal with the consequences later if the flights might go up a little bit. We're not willing to pay that extra price ever up front.
If we think a flight is listed at a really deep discount, we'll go ahead and book it. We'll also book those flights that are pivotal to our big rock destinations, like getting back to the US or departing from the US. But otherwise, we try to wait on those just to have a little bit more flexibility.
Outside of those cases, we'll monitor flight prices manually, or we'll go ahead and set one of those alerts that lets us know when the flight prices are going to increase.
And the reason that we kind of like that flexibility is that there may be an opportunity to meet up with someone that we really want to connect with, or there's some other reason, maybe there's some place we want to visit that wasn't originally on our radar, and the more we start thinking about our travel as it gets closer, we may want to change our minds.
Yeah, we've done that a lot these past couple of years. It's amazing how often we find someone saying, oh, did you decide to go here? How about the city close by? It's like, all right, I'm glad we didn't book flights for everything.
And also, cash is king. So we definitely need to be mindful of our cash flow.
We don't have unlimited funds. So we need to make sure that our credit card bills aren't sky high at one month of the year and then low other parts of the year. We try to keep them balanced as much as possible.
That also means we need to be smart regarding booking accommodations. We ideally want to book those that allow us to pay half now and the half later, or we'll use booking.com that will allow us to either pay when we arrive. It depends. We try to use a mix of things so that we're not having an outflow of cash on everything all at once. And we typically like to book accommodations that give us at least a month before to allow us to change our minds. When we have to book with 48 hours to change our minds, we really don't like to do that if we can avoid it.
And we know that when we book flights, they're going to make us pay up front. So we book all our flights now for the next year. This is going to be a hell of a credit card bill.
And once those flights are booked, we have absolutely no flexibility in how our plans are going to unfold.
We know that sometimes we might miss out on those rock bottom prices, but the flexibility is worth much more than a few dollars on those flights.
So let's go through the detailed steps of how we find flights.
The best way we found to find flights is using an aggregator. It's terribly time consuming to go to each airline, check out the prices for each one, and then try to figure out which airline service which place. So we choose to use websites that combine all these in one spot. My personal favorite is Kayak because I know the ins and outs of that website and how to spot problems. Now I'll start by putting in the exact date of travel, which for us is typically one way, and see what offers Kayak shows. Then I look at what eDreams will give me for the same search, only because I pay for eDreams Prime, which gives me a discount on some flights and immediate customer service, which we'll talk about later in this video in the When Things Go Wrong section. Now, like all aggregators, neither Kayak nor eDreams is perfect, so my next step is to check with the airlines directly.
While for some people, finding travel deals can be a fun game, we'd rather use more of our time exploring the cool cities we're visiting than spending hours poring over flight options.
Let us know how you typically book your flights. Do you wait for the perfect deal? Do you book everything in advance? Let us know in the comments.
So let's talk about how we pick our seat assignments.
We typically don't want to be in exit row seats because then we can't have our backpacks under the seat in front of us, which we like to have full access to that. We also don't go to bulkhead areas because, again, you can't have your backpack with you. It's got to be put in the upper spot, and we don't like that either. We also have to have a problem with bathrooms are often near the bulkhead. And
especially for long haul flights.
Yeah, and having the lineup right there may be a little bit too close for comfort.
So Kevin typically will book an aisle seat and I'll be in the middle.
We also try to be nearer the front of the plane so we can board quicker and exit quicker. We can't afford the upfront expensive seats, but right behind there, usually around row 11 or 12 in some planes, works perfectly for us.
So how do we avoid gotchas? Now we have an entire video about that, but one of Kevin's most hated gotchas are hidden costs.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of aggregators don't give you all the costs up front. So the ones that do have a checkbox that say include a checked bag or include carry-on luggage. We do the check include carry-on luggage so we can see the fees that increase. Now, a lot of times that changes some discount airlines dramatically. The prices jump up. So what you thought was a wonderful deal suddenly is the worst.
Now it's kind of a hassle because you have to toggle that on for every search that you do, but you'll want to do that. We don't like to have to check our luggage if at all we can avoid it. And typically now that we've downsized our Briggs & Riley suitcases to 10 kilograms, we can get away without having to check them most of the time. Since everything we own is what we carry, we really like to have them with us as much as possible.
Now, when I'm looking at these aggregator sites, I see a great price and I start questioning it. I want to see a confirmation that includes a carry-on and underseat personal item, which is our backpacks. If I don't, then red flags pop up in my brain. I'm also wary of seat selection charges, which can be incredibly high on some airlines. If an airline offers an upgrade from basic that includes carry-on and basic seat selection, I'll probably pay that fee. It's often cheaper than the individual fees of luggage and seating by themselves.
And sometimes those fares even will give you priority boarding.
We also avoid multi-leg flights when possible because baggage fees might not multiply, but seat selection fees almost always do.
Another way we save money is to use our Chase Sapphire Reserve card that gives us access to over 1,700 airport lounges worldwide. And that's where we fill up on free food and beverages and can avoid the premium prices of airline food.
Our choice for booking with a specific airline is directly related to what that airline looks like online. Sometimes their websites are horrible. Sometimes they don't offer support options. In those cases, we tend to go to an aggregator or a third-party service like eDreams. Now, the reason I use eDreams is because we were booking a lot of flights in Egypt, Southeast Asia, areas that we hadn't been familiar with the airlines before, and I wanted an extra layer of support. Now, eDreams does have a cost for the Prime membership, but they also give me discounts on every flight that I book, or almost every flight that I book, and they give me a way to talk to a person quickly when I need to.
They also have a really handy chat feature, so if you're not in a position to hop on a call, you can communicate that way.
Being able to talk to a support person on a phone call within 5 minutes was really critical when I had a booking issue with both Vietjet and Citizen Plane Airlines on flights to Da Nang and Busan respectively. Both airlines only offered email support, which didn't fill me with a lot of confidence about a timely resolution, and I wanted to make sure that my name was corrected on those 2 tickets. Hopping on a phone call with the eDreams support person helped me confirm that this issue would be resolved quickly before the deadline on both flights.
We've really only used Chase Travel when we're using points, and they're also a good intermediary and they are also very responsive. The one thing that you have to be wary of, though, is they are not a travel agency, and they'll be the first to admit that to you. So there have been times when flights have been canceled and we have to work out alternate arrangements. And unfortunately, they will only be able to give you a quote for flights that you'd specifically feed to them. They don't really have the ability to kind of run through alternate prices or times of day or sort through some of the things that you'd be able to get resolved if you were dealing with a travel agent who knew alternate paths to take. So if you're trying to get to another part of the world and you really don't know how to get there, they don't either. We still use points for booking flights on occasion, but we're judicious about how we do it. Typically, a long-haul flight that uses a lot of points is better for us than a bunch of little flights, because the more flights you book, the more problems you can have. Before we were full-time travelers, we always used major airlines and never budget ones. We only traveled once or twice a year, and therefore we could afford to splurge on big-name airlines. But now that we're traveling full-time, the number of flights that we're using and the number of cities we're visiting really makes it prohibitive. In 2024, we visited 26 cities across 4 different continents. We never could have done that by flying major airlines exclusively.
Many of the places we travel to don't even have major airlines flying into them, so we use budget airlines. We're just very careful about the baggage fees, the seat fees, and any other costs that they may throw in at the last minute.
We know that we may not be able to get food or drinks on those planes, so we plan ahead and we eat our fill in the airport lounges, we have water on hand, and we have a snack in our backpacks.
Yeah, a lot of these airlines will charge you for food coming down the aisle, and we know that now, so we're not going on a plane hungry and willing to pay those fees in the aisle.
We've learned that we need to do a lot more research about those budget airlines, though. It's not just about costs, it's also about their reliability. And we learned that hard lesson when we were in Argentina using Flybondi. They just canceled flights for no reason, and that was a really bad thing. If we had done a little bit more research about them, we would have avoided them.
We haven't had that problem in the past. It's one of the first times we've ever seen an airline just not care enough to keep the flight going. So now when we see prices on budget airlines, we look at what airlines they are, and sometimes we'll pay a little bit more for an airline we can trust versus an airline that gives us a little bit of a cheaper price. Now, not everyone does travel planning like us. We don't always plan a full year in advance of having to live on the road all the time.
We have an entire video on how we plan our travel, but some of the resources we use to plan our destinations are Skyscanner, Flight Connection, and Google Flights with their Search Everywhere feature. That allows us to know what the cheapest hops might be from a particular place. And we have 2 full travel planning videos linked in the description for our 2024 plans and everything we're doing for 2025. Because we ideally like to spend a month somewhere, it means that we don't have an unlimited number of destinations that we can visit in a year. So we like to prioritize the places that are at the top of our bucket list versus destinations that we can get to more cheaply, but are much lower on our priority list. We've had people ask us if we use Google Flights, and we do for specific purposes. We like the Travel Everywhere feature, so we definitely use it for that. We'll also use it to turn on flight alerts if we're monitoring good prices. If you have any tips, tricks, or resources that work best for you, we would love to hear them. We hope this episode was helpful for you. If you haven't already subscribed, we would really love for you to do that. It makes a huge difference.
And check out findinggina.com, where you can find articles, downloads, our free community forum, and you can look at our behind-the-scenes gelato membership options.
Until next time.
Until next time.